Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Hello. Hi, we're going to call this meeting to order. 7:09. If we could all please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So, and then if we can have our secretary read the mission statement, please.
The Middletown Area Town Hall was formed to operate as a true town hall, with everyone participating in voting. However, county officials required us to elect a board to conform with other advisory committees. Our bylaws specify that the assembly makes decisions based on a vote of everyone present. The board encourages all members to give their opinions and vote on every matter before the assembly.
Yes. Oh, phone. Okay. All right. So, does anyone have a moment of silence that they would like us to consider? Yes. Kate? Did?
Oh, the people who were injured in that net.
Oh, thank you.
Good thoughts to them.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so we will take just a brief moment of silence. All right, thank you. So I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda, but with one change, or at least one change that I know of. On item number 4, we will be approving the September meeting minutes, not the July meeting minutes. So with that one change, or does anybody else see a change, or please motion? Mr. Thornton? Yes.
Regarding number 5, reports of correspondence, and then below that it says count plan divisions for downtown, Middletown diagonal parking, and above that it says action. Does that mean that that's an action item under correspondence?
No.
Reports?
No, it could be, but not necessarily. There was a time that this body decided that when we review correspondence, because of course we only meet as a body once a month, and sometimes we receive correspondence that perhaps needs action before we will meet again. And so we've just put that on there as it states possible action if needed on any item of correspondence. So that really is up to this body. If there is some sort of correspondence that we receive between the last meeting and this meeting, or before our next meeting, that we want to take some action on, we're able to do that.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a follow-up. In my opinion, this Caltrans revision for downtown diagonal parking is going to take some time.
I agree.
And will we have enough time to take care of this with the other items, or can we put that off, or should we put that off until we can be assured that we have enough time to discuss this?
I would suggest that when we get to that item, that you can make a motion. That's exactly why we have action as a possibility there. You can make a motion that we put that on the November agenda for further discussion, so we can discuss it more in depth.
Then I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the caveat that we will be no time limit on our input. They ask for our input. Is there a time limit on it? I mean, we're not gonna miss the vote if we don't do it tonight.
That's correct.
Okay. Because that's gonna be a
Should be in here.
discussion.
Yes.
I would think.
Can we move on with the agenda now
I
and
made a motion to
for-
approve the agenda.
thank you. Then I need a second. Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. And we will move on with our speakers for this evening, if we're ready down there, Thomas?
We can't find the share, the mirror on, is anybody familiar with Dell's?
Is there anybody that's a Dell operator?
I mean, I used to have it.
Where's the mirror?
PC.
Where's the screen share? Do you need this?
No, well, I will, but not.
F,
In the interim, I'll make a motion to approve the
screen
September
share.
minutes.
That's what I was trying to say, really shut up and
We get it out of the way.
We did that.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. So we have a motion on the floor. We're skipping around on the agenda. We have a motion on the floor to approve the September meeting minutes. Okay, Charlie is second.
Sorry.
I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving the September meeting minutes?
Not working? Yeah.
Any opposed? Okay, so moved.
On mine.
So, and tonight we have two speakers here with us from the County of Lake. We have Lisa Judd, who will be talking to us about the Housing Action Impact Plan. And then we have Shannon Walker-Smith, who is going to be talking to us about the climate adaptation plan.
Is Lisa Judd can be asked questions at this point?
Right now?
Tell me exactly what the Housing Action Impact Plan is.
I think,
Are you gonna tell?
let me go ahead and maybe do the presentation, and then if you have any questions, then I can answer those questions at that time. And I will answer your question
Yeah.
as we go through it.
And we will need to use the mic.
How do I turn it on? Just need to get closer.
Oh, it just wasn't plugged in all the way?
Oh, perfect. Such a simple fix.
Almost there. I need to make this,
I'm only sitting
Front
here thinking,
left.
wait a minute.
This is my fault.
That is not what I'm seeing in front of me.
If you move along one mouse, are you able to see it on there?
Sorry, it's not what I'm seeing on my screen, so I usually have multiple monitors, and it looks like the. We're close. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Super appreciate your help there. Thank you so much. I'm Lisa Judd. I'm the Deputy County Administrative Officer for Housing for the County of Lake, and it is my pleasure to be here this evening. About May of 2024, we did a kickoff meeting, and it took us a little over a year to complete this housing action and implementation plan. This was done in collaboration with both the cities of Clear Lake and Lakeport and the entire county. Community Development Department was very integral in this effort to create this housing action and implementation plan. We call it the HAPE, so I don't have to say that very long phrase every time. Shannon Walker-Smith is here, and Director Turner were also two of the most active parties in creating this plan as well. We also worked with PlaceWorks, our consultant, and one of the most important things that we started with is working with community engagement. I have on here, if you haven't had the opportunity, a link to, if you go to the County of Lake administration page on the left-hand side, there's a tab for housing, and there's a link to the Housing Action and Implementation Plan. It is a lengthy document. It's over 400 pages. So obviously I'm going to give a brief summary of what we have in that plan, but I invite you to take a look at it. There's also an interactive web map and a sites analysis piece as well, and all of the effort that went into creating this if you have questions about how we came to the conclusions that we did. So again, we started back in May of 2024, and to answer your question, sir, that I think you asked, this Housing Action and Implementation Plan, the HAPE, is a comprehensive manual to address the housing demands throughout Lake County. It is not a part of the general plan, but it is related to the general plan, and when they do the housing element, many of the aspects of this plan will be used to create that housing element. One of the best parts, I think, that when we came into like what goals and strategies is that we really did a very deep dive into community engagement. We went to the LAPAC meetings, we went to community events, we had different special group discussions with economics, with the local continuum of care in Lake County, with the developers in the county, real estate professionals, Spanish-speaking individuals, and really tried to kind of do a deep dive into the community and what the community wanted for housing. There are many parts of the HAPE, and one of them is the first thing that we looked at is, you know, what are our current conditions, what are the gaps analysis, the things that are listed here, it's listed in detail in the HAPE itself, you know, whether projected growth is, and things like that. And many of the things that are listed on here that were projected as housing gaps, I don't think will come to a surprise to you in the community. Housing rehabilitation was cited as one of the most important aspects. While we need new housing, at the same time, there are many housing that we don't want to lose the existing housing that we have. And we're looking at ways to look for rehabilitation for folks as there's health and safety issues. We don't want people to lose their housing. And the other thing that I wanted to stress on the Housing Action and Implementation Plan is that it addresses all the spectrum of housing. So it's not just homelessness, it's not just one aspect, it's really the entire spectrum for housing. And that includes the specialized groups that are in there as well. One of the interesting things that, you know, with the county and fire and the things that we're looking at is that really a high need for infill. So we already have the infrastructure in place and all of the things that we need. So we need to really utilize the places and the opportunities that we can to do infill. And then, of course, it also addressed insurance coverage. We all know how challenging that is in this county. We can't necessarily solve that problem, but that is addressed in the HAPE as well. I'm just going to go into the goals and strategies here. Again, this is creating housing for all economic levels. We have different strategies. And one thing I want to back up and just kind of emphasize here is that the HAPE has strategies, and it's like a playbook. So we may not necessarily use every play in the playbook, but we have them outlined here so that when the opportunity arises, we already have the strategy and the way that we can address these issues. And again, this is very high level because this is a very lengthy document that's very detailed, and I invite all of you again to, if you're curious about it, to look further into that. These strategies are not listed in any kind of order. They're not a priority. So 1.1 isn't necessarily higher than 1.3, so just to make that clear. But one of the things that we're looking at is increasing the number of ADUs in the county and creating an ADU plan or program. We just recently looked at a draft for the new RHNA, which is a Regional Housing Needs Assessment with different numbers, and it's increased. So they're saying that we need to provide even more housing than we have already. So this is just one of the many ways that we can have another tool in our list of, tools so that we can increase housing in the county. Strategy 1.2, increase the number of homeless housing options and programs to serve vulnerable population. Sorry, I'm a morning person, not an evening person, so bear with me. And I think we all know there was a lot of discussion when we were at Big Valley last night regarding homelessness. It's definitely a challenge to look at, but again, we have many other populations we also want to serve. Strategy 1.3, expanding opportunities for small lot residential throughout the county. And 1.4 is to work to build a variety of residential options, particularly those that offer amenities. So this, again, comes back to that community engagement and what the community is asking for. Workforce housing. We have heard repeatedly that we have employers that are trying to entice people to stay or come into the county for jobs and having a hard time with workforce housing. I think we've heard a lot from the community that's something that they would like to see happen. And then also first-time home buyers. One of the things that we heard from our community as well is that you want your sons and daughters to stay in the county. You want them to have an opportunity to be able to buy homes and stay here in Lake County. So we're looking at options for that as well. And of course, veterans. Veteran housing is really important. There's a very high amount of veterans here in Lake County. That's near and dear to me because I grew up a military family, and so I definitely think that we should look at housing options for our veterans that have served our country. And then, of course, seniors. We have also a very high population and a lot of seniors, and they have trouble finding housing and keeping in housing. So that is another one of the special needs that we're looking for. I don't know if you're aware, you may be aware if you're following the Board of Supervisors, but we have a voucher program here in this county that is changing as of January 1st to a regional housing model. It's one of the things that we recommended, but it actually happened before we ended up finishing the HAPE. I think it's going to be beneficial to our county because they have the expertise and the ability to grow. So the voucher program is essentially, giving rental subsidy for those folks that will give more options. And if they can do what's called project-based vouchers, they can bring development into the county as well. So I'm hoping that that change will be a positive impact for our county with housing. We will continue to use a GIS system to update our HAPE sites inventory analysis. I haven't really touched on this very much, but we did a very deep dive on sites analysis and where we can build housing. We need to do some more work on that to kind of finalize that, but it is a great first step that has been made so that we can really look at where we can build and what types of housing makes the most sense. And another thing that's happening is creating opportunities for all the 3 jurisdictions to collaborate on securing funding. And again, this was our partners at Clear Lake and Lakeport also contributed to this HAPE. It is not in a silo, just the county. It is all the, truly the county of Lake, the entire county, for us to look at housing and figure out how we can work together and get that synergy to create housing. There is no, as we all know, there's a housing crisis in California. There's no easy answers, and I think it's going to take using a lot of the tools that we have so that we can address the housing crisis. This brings us to goal 2. One of the things that we, again, kind of came through is encouraging and facilitate infill development, focusing on sites here that are in fire-safe areas. That we don't have a lot, but we can do the best that we can with what we have, and integrating those safety measures. And then again, kind of focusing on that infrastructure that's already in place for housing. This was a wonderful idea. It was brought up to us from one of our community engagement sessions, was that, there are many places, especially that have been burned, where there's lots of land, and to use a community land trust so that we can start using those parcels to create housing. So that's something that we're looking to explore as well. I touched on this briefly before, but maintaining and rehabilitating is really important. I know with the county, they're having code enforcement officers, a new program that's coming as far as do not want to displace people from housing. So we want to be able to establish a rehabilitation program so that they have a resource to make the necessary repairs that are needed. And also ADA is also very important, as people need that as well. I think also most of us know that there's an issue with mobile homes. Many things have been brought up recently with the Board of Supervisors regarding that. And this is a very hard thing to tackle, and it's really important. So it is something that's included in the HAPE with a strategy there as well. And then one of the things we're looking for is to obtain our pro-housing designation, which would access us to more grant funding so that we can have housing. Funding is really slim right now, and so we have to use every opportunity that we can. And then many of the things that will get us to that pro-housing are things that we want to encourage developers to come here to Lake County. We'll be streamlining the development review process, finding ways to, reduce fees, and increase communication for our developers. And that could include amending zoning ordinances, creating incentive programs, and then using those incentives to kind of guide what we prioritize for our housing. And then here, I'm just kind of briefly here, there is in the appendices, pretty long, about the community engagement. If you're curious, where did we go? Where did we get this information? Same thing with the current conditions. The current conditions were, really fascinating. There's a lot of really interesting things that are there. So I would encourage you, if we had another hour, I could go through all of that as well, but I know it's in the evening and I want to be cognizant of your time. And then there's also the gaps analysis table. So there's a lot of really good data and analysis tables in there as well if you would like to look at that. I think I touched on briefly that there's a sites analysis. It is in order to support the implementation of the HAPE goals and strategies, so we identified priority sites. This will also be used with the 7th cycle housing element as we come into that. And part of that process, we have a summary report, we have a GIS system, and we have an interactive web map. When you go to the housing site that I told you on the County of Lake Administration Housing, there's a link to that, to the HAPE as well as the interactive web map. It is not super fast, so you have to be a little patient, but it is a powerful tool to kind of look at different sites around the county if you're interested in that. Kind of geared towards developers. And so this kind of goes through what that process was. We had, again, consultant Placeworks that worked on this piece of it for the sites analysis. And there were some impediments that, we need to go a little bit further to do some more analysis to refine that process. But some of the things that we're looking for are parcel sized, if they're undeveloped, making sure they're not in something that would be a negative for housing, like a hazard area, looking at any sites that we might own already for government that we could use to incentivize housing. And then also for like multi-family complexes, really most of the developers need to score on what's called tax credits. So we've included that as well. And then for a density allows at least 15 units per acre. So those are the things that we're looking at in the sites analysis. And then this just kind of gives a brief overview of some of the housing sites that we've identified. And then I just put in this one slide here. This is what the interactive web map looks like when you get there. I will encourage you, because it is not intuitive, at least it wasn't for me. But there is this nice little part that says instructions. So I would encourage you to look at the instructions and then kind of play with it and have some fun with checking that out as well. So the question is, here with a HAPE, what is their timeline? So many of these goals are ongoing. Near term is 1 to 5 years, midterm 6 to 10 years. For the upcoming year, what we're hoping to do is to complete the housing sites and identify the most suitable sites, create a developer-friendly atmosphere, and attaining the pro-housing designation. So that comes into like, hey, we're open for housing here in Lake County, and we want to make sure the developers are incentivized to do business with us and have a positive experience. We're also looking again at the creation of a housing rehabilitation program, which is just really key and important, so that we can continue to have the housing stock that we do. We don't want to lose any of that housing stock. And this just kind of lists out the next steps for near term and midterm. I know that they're all important, and we didn't necessarily prioritize by what's most important is near term. Some of these are going to take longer to accomplish than others. And then one of the things I did want to touch on is that the HAPE is not something to be shelved in a document just to collect dust. So we will be making changes to it and making amendments to it so that it is always a meaningful document. We're already working on our first revision. There was a request to do more climate disaster related housing piece to that, so we're working on that, as well as some definitions. But it will be something that we continually update and change so that it works for us, and it really is a playbook for strategies that we can look at for addressing our housing crisis here in Lake County. And again, that is a very brief description of what the HAPE is. And again, I encourage you all, if you have an opportunity, to look at that document. But I wanted to make sure and allow for an opportunity for any questions that you may have. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you very much for that presentation. Annette?
Several questions. Nanette Dayton, is that working? Nanette Daytonato. My first question was, from what I understand, in order to build a house, a stick-built house in this county, it's at least $30,000 just to get a permit. Is that a county or state, and how can we work on reducing that? Because that, to me, that seems like a steep amount.
I'm not sure what the exact amount is for the permit. A CDD probably could help us with that, and we could find those answers. But in answer to your question, one of the things that we're looking at is, incentives to help people and streamlining it and definitely making it more cost effective so that, people can build a home.
Okay, and then the second part of my question was, from what I understand, and I could be wrong, that, there's a lot of modular homes. There's a factory down in Lower Lake, but there are a lot of areas that you cannot put a modular home on. And it seems to me, as opposed to a stick-built house, that would be a much more efficient and quicker way of addressing the housing issue.
I do agree with you that modular homes are less expensive, and in fact, we were looking at working with a developer in new homes, like for a first-time home buyer, and they were talking about if there's a possibility to do a modular home, that would be certainly more cost-effective. So those are definitely things that we're looking at. As far as the exact, like whether certain areas are zoned for modular versus stick-built, I would have to consult with our community development zoning for those answers.
Okay, and then the last part is, you talked about workplace housing, because we really don't have a lot of apartments, and the one section on 175 that burnt down during the fire is not going to be replaced. And not that I'm an apartment person, but you know, I understand. We all lived in apartments as we were starting our journey through life, and we need more apartments. I know there's a lot of low-income apartments, but there's the average Joe that just needs a place, an apartment, and I don't think we have much of that available.
You're absolutely correct on that. Workforce housing is something that we're looking at, and those are the strategies. I've heard that in both Mendocino and Lake County that, you know, what happens is there's all these incentives and tax credits for the developers so that they're able to do the capital stack for the low income housing. So that's why you're seeing so much of that being built, because that literally is the only way that can fiscally be done. And so it's an unfortunate, because there is such a high need. And as you pointed out, there's, you know, people from, you know, entering into the workforce at different stages of life, and the apartment or something like that would be beneficial for them. So we are definitely taking that very seriously as far as how can we address that issue with workforce housing. It's not an easy thing to address, but I think it definitely can be done. And there's a lot of ideas that are out there so that we can look at that. But you're exactly right, and that we've heard that a lot from the community is we're tired of just seeing low-income housing. We need regular housing as well. So
Do you happen to know what the outreach is to developers to engage with Lake County, to engage with this site? And is there a way to track if they do get onto the website and are trying to engage and find out where they can develop?
I like that. That's very clever to be able to track who's coming onto our website. I don't know that we have that technology. Maybe I'm sure it exists. I don't know that we have that on our website. I'm currently housing. We're currently housing and Econ are currently doing their own web pages right now, and so that's actually in development. And one of the things on there is going to be a developer incentive page. We did also do a pretty extensive reaching out to all the developers that have been here in Lake County and kind of get their feedback. And what they really said to us is things like streamlining those process, but also having they would love to see one person, so they're not having to go to all the different entities to try to, it gets really complicated. Developer incentives, obviously. And so part of our efforts here are really going to be to try to say, hey, we're developer friendly. How can we make this easier for you? What incentives can we do to promote that this is a good place to come and, develop housing?
Hello, my name is Kate Schmidt-Hopper. I've been to a couple of these presentations, and if you could expand, because you didn't touch on it, the concept of having home designs that are pre-approved, which would speed things up.
I'm
And
super glad you asked.
also, I'll let you start there, and then I'll separate my additional question. Go ahead.
Okay. So absolutely love this. And one of the great things about the HAPE is now it's like we can really roll up our sleeves and do the heavy lifting and the work. And one of the things that came out is, you may know or may not know that community development has free ADU plans on their site. And I had conversations with various people in the community that came and said, we'd like plans for other types of housing. So I'm actually in the works of, I need to bring it to the board. Of course, it needs to be approved, but one of the things that we're looking at is a housing plans library that would include single-family homes, duplexes, triplexes, so that infill kind of missing middle housing, as well as it can help on many different ways. So if there's a natural disaster, someone's home, if they want to fast track and get a home built, there's already a pre-approved home plan that's designed. So I absolutely agree with you. That is something we are actually in the works of right now. We've already contacted, architects, for them to give us quotes on that and how much that would cost, and so that we can work that into the budget. So it is something that we are exploring right now.
That's great. Then related to that, I know that you spoke to infill, which of course is the place that you want to start with any development. You also mentioned briefly in your list properties that have maybe been defaulted upon in their taxes, and so the county owns those parcels, and that might be a good option. But I'm also curious as to how CDD is dealing with the question of infrastructure. So we need to have roads and make sure that the roads are properly built. We need to have water. You need to have a sewer system. You need to have power. So there's a lot of infrastructure questions that have to be addressed before you can even build. So what is, I think I gave up around page 180 on the HAPE when I was reading through it. But I was just wondering if this HAPE actually addresses the infrastructure question, or is that something that the Board of Supervisors and the Community Development Department will be addressing?
It is something that we're having conversations about right now, and you're absolutely spot on that infrastructure has, in fact, we had this conversation this morning, just talking about what funding can we have, because without, it's kind of like we want to rush to housing, but without the infrastructure in place first, then it doesn't make sense. So community development, I know, is working, and the different departments are definitely looking at different ways that we can fund that so that we can have that infrastructure in place.
Where do growth boundaries come into that conversation?
I know for the sites analysis, we're looking at where, those are, so that we can look at like what's optimal for housing. I know that, I don't know if Shannon, if you have anything you want to add to that, or no? But.
I could. I'm sitting here not speaking up for community development. Thanks. Shannon Walker-Smith, Deputy Administrator, Community Development Department, County of Lake. A lot of questions have come up around community development. Just for a couple points of clarification, community development does not do infrastructure. We do building and safety, code enforcement, and planning. Water and sewer are governed by special districts, and the roads are governed by public works. So those two things are not actually community developments under our purview, but we work closely with those departments. Of course, we can't do anything unless we're all working together, and certainly housing is one of those things that we know that infrastructure is limiting our ability to build up capacity for housing. And so we are having those conversations now. There's some feasibility studies in the works. There's a lot of things that we're working on that all have to kind of coalesce towards this housing action and implementation plan. As far as community growth boundaries, those are the areas where we know infrastructure already exists. And so that's a focus for infill, is looking at what lots exist inside community growth boundaries where we know if new houses were built, they would have the infrastructure that was needed to support them. So that's a major strategy of the HAPE and the infill piece of that, is to look at community growth boundaries. Is there anything else that I very subtly didn't get involved in answering?
You mentioned growth where there's infrastructure. Do you know where the infrastructure is? You know how many places have infrastructure in Lake County?
Do I personally
Yeah, do you know?
I mean, I'm in
Wait,
yeah, in these
we have to do a mic, so do you have a question you want to ask?
I'm just trying to figure out how you can talk about only building where there's infrastructure, when there's only really two places that have infrastructure, Clear Lake and Lakeport. The infrastructure means water, sewer, sure, you can get wells, you can get septic tanks, but you're adding $30,000 every time you do that to the building site. So that eliminates with the $30,000 for the septic tank and the well, and another $35,000 for building permit, you're $65,000 or $70,000, and then you put on top of that the fire suppression system that they insist you have and the solar panels, you add another $10,000 minimum. Now you're at $75,000 and you haven't dug any dirt at all. You haven't even started. Now somebody has to tell me how you're going to build affordable houses with those kind of costs. And would the county consider mapping houses at the same, for instance, in a subdivision, a builder may have 7 models, 7, maybe 8 models, different elevations, but 7 or 8 models. And yet the county will not master them or allow you to pay less for one that's been built 10 times. They don't have to look at the plans that's been built 10 times. But they don't make any provision for that, nor do they make any provision for low-income housing. They charge you the same for permits. So somebody's got. Yes, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Do you want to respond to any of that?
I can respond. Look, you know, building housing, the expense of building housing is a California problem, right? This is not a Lake County problem.
Well, it is Lake County problem.
Well, no, it's not.
Wait.
So it's a California problem. It's very expensive to build housing in California based on regulations. We actually have some of the lowest, fees in the state as far as housing. If you want to look at that, go ahead and look at the costs of building a house in Sonoma County. But we're working on all of these things. We're open to your suggestions. We're working on looking at fee consolidation. We're looking at lots of options to try to help. But, we also have to support the county departments that are staffing these offices to do this work. And, it's a struggle. It's a push and pull all the time to figure out how to do this. And I don't disagree with you that building affordable or low income housing feels almost impossible right now. Insurance premiums are making it feel really impossible, not just to build a house, but just even to own a house in California. But many of these problems are not specific to Lake County, and all we can do is try to be creative and work together as county departments, listen to the community and what they need, work with developers. We have it's all hands on deck, is what I should say, at the county in terms of trying to figure out how to maneuver through what feels like kind of an impossible housing crisis.
Thank you. And we have a plan. So with goals and strategies.
Yeah, hi. You can hear me okay? Tom Lasik. Just a fact check. There are more than 2 water districts in our county. We've got, I just brought it up here, but we have, as far as special districts, in addition to the city of Lakeport and Clear Lake, you've got Anderson Springs, Canoctech County Water District, Upper Lake County Water District, Villa Blue Estates Water District, Buckingham Parks Water District, Clear Lake Oaks Water District, Lower Lake County Water Works, District Number 1, Calliope Water District, Cobb Area Water Districts, and it goes on and on. So
Yeah, there's a
there's,
lot.
yeah, there's a lot. So the scope is much broader than I think what people realize. So, you know, I think what HAPE is doing is great. We, like you said, we've got a plan. So let's formulate that plan a little bit better, you know, a little bit more detail, and start executing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, or shall we move on to, nope, there's 2 more questions. Okay. Margot?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Margot Kambara. Thank you for the presentation. It was very interesting. HAPE offers a lot of interesting ideas, and one of the goals is an opportunity for the community to help build the community that it wants to see. And that's specifically the completing the housing sites and ID the most suitable sites for development. So that is something that if any town hall chose to form a committee on land use or housing, can roll up its sleeves and take a look at the HAPE GIS and help the HAPE team identify those ideal sites for housing, for workforce housing, for apartments, etc. The other suggestion that I have for HAPE is, yes, it's a living document, but it probably even help you with your grant writing is if you kept track of metrics. How are you going to define success? And how are you going to track your accomplishments if the text keeps on getting revised or the goals change, etc.? I also wanted to ask about, you have an interesting idea. It's more on the not on the immediate horizon, but the mid horizon, and that is building resilient, fire resilient housing and workforce training experience, and having that done in a mini manufacturing plant. So that is also economic development. Can you tell us what zoning that has to be in? Can it be more than just M1 commercial and manufacturing district?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that when we're looking at the different zoning things, we can make changes to that if they're needed. So one of the things we're looking at in the sites analysis is like if everything else is ideal, but the zoning was wrong, we flagged that as something that we could look into and explore for zoning changes when those come about.
The first part of what Marco was talking about was trying to identify housing needs and housing locations in the Middletown area is kind of something that's going on with the Middletown area plan of the LAPAC group, and that'll be coming before this group here very soon. So, and I hope this group is willing to engage. Charlie?
It's interesting. I'd like to know who the LAPAC group is. I have 3 questions. I'll try to make this as easy as possible for you. I went through all 400 pages. I'm just kind of curious. You have a lot of stuff about Yolo County and things that you can do towards the end of that, and also some stuff from Hawthorne, California. And then my next question is going to be, out on Poppy Lane, we have a homeless camp here in Middletown that just gets ignored, but the residents are going nuts out there. I mean, I work with crazy veterans basically, and they talk about getting their guns because it's out of control. Is there any kind of way to get these folks out of the woods? I mean, we brought up things like infrastructure and water. I mean, they're basically living off of water from the creek that's out there near Poppy Lane. So there's that. And the last one is, I guess there was a meeting back in April 2024 that you mentioned on page 98 that talks about a lot of some interesting stuff for Middletown, but I want to focus on increased code enforcement. That is a very, very wishy-washy thing in respects that, are we going to, the people that are there, are they going to go by new rules? Or are they going to be grandfathered for old rules? Because we passed a lot of legislation down here in South County for marijuana that does not match anything as far as code enforcement. And nobody wants to enforce it because, honestly, I think people are scared. The cops are even scared of these guys. So it's great to put this on paper, but how are you going to do it? So I hope that's not too much.
You know, it's interesting because yesterday I was at the Big Valley, and there was a lot of discussion regarding homelessness, and in particular, like the Pioneer Park that's there. And the behavioral health team was there. There was four individuals from behavioral health, so they may be someone that you would like to invite to this venue. They talked about their mobile crisis, that if there are folks that are like, that they will come out and engage with them to try to find services. I know that there's a lot of discussion. I personally have had a lot of experience with helping the hardest to house. And I will say that it's not just housing. You have to have supportive services in order for that to be successful, in my experience. So everyone's like, oh, let's just build it and then we'll house everyone and the problems will go away. And that is not necessarily true, but it is the first step. And having supportive services and a way to financially be able to, you know, rental subsidies with voucher programs. I know that we don't have a permanent supportive housing program, for example, here in Lake County, and that would definitely be something that I'm hoping the regional housing model will look at, because that does wrap around supportive services for those folks. It's a complicated question that you have. It's a really good question, and for the HAPE, we're addressing the full spectrum of housing, and the homeless issue alone is a huge thing to tackle. So I appreciate your comments on that. And I do, again, think that it's going to be something with the Lake County Continuum of Care is particularly, that's their area of expertise. And it is something we want to address. But again, I think until we find a way to be able to make it financially viable long-term for that kind of housing and provide those supportive services are really what we need. But in the meantime, behavioral health is doing an amazing job with their mobile crisis unit that you can contact. And I wish I had their number because they gave it to us last night and I don't have it with me today. You have it? Oh, good. Margo was there last night. She knows. So maybe you can share that with, yeah, thank you so much, Margo.
Thank you. Okay, one last question real quick, and then we're going to move on to our next speaker in climate. That's okay.
Hopefully it's a pretty simple question. Thank you for your service. You had a slide up there with a single modular home, one of your slides. Let's see. And you said it was problematic, or can you just explain why you had that particular photograph?
Yeah, so that was just one to show a modular home, really, or, you know, our mobile home. And we know that there are many mobile homes that are not up to code and safety and health standards. It's a huge issue that we have. It's kind of complicated because the mobile homes go under the state, under HCD, so they're different than other types of housing. So it gets a little bit more complicated. I also serve on the NCO board, and we do have a program called Build, and they would love to help many folks, but sometimes when it comes to the mobile homes, because they're under this different jurisdiction, it makes it more complicated. So it is a complicated, especially when you have folks that own their home, like their mobile home, and they rent the land that they're on. So there are many complications that come to that. So I think that one's going to be a little bit more complex.
It's going to be a simple question.
Yeah.
All right, with that, thank you very, very much, Lisa.
Thank you so much.
Great presentation. So we'll move on to our next presentation with Shannon Walker-Smith. May not be.
Oh, now it is. I got it. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to talk for just 2 seconds about code enforcement since you brought it up. What was your name here in front?
Charlie.
Charlie. Very nice to meet you, Charlie. In my role at Community Development, I supervise the Code Enforcement Division, and I just wanted to we're going to in my presentation, I'm going to be asking the questions about your ideas about climate hazards, but to address a couple of your questions about code enforcement, poor Lisa, she got all my questions tonight, but First, we have doubled our code enforcement team over the last 2 years. So the idea of expanding code enforcement and trying to do more with code enforcement is not just an idea. We're putting that into action. We've gotten 3 grants over the last couple of years to do code enforcement, and one of those grants is specific to illegal cannabis cultivation, so we're not afraid. We are out there every day enforcing illegal cannabis. If you have a code enforcement complaint, please call or go onto our website and report it. We are actively pursuing all of these things, and we're doing this in the community every day. I know there's a lot of issues, and there's just a few of us, and we're getting to things as quickly as we can, but we are not ignoring these issues. In the past, it was very difficult for code enforcement, which was a team of about 3 lovely gentlemen trying to serve the whole county. Now we have a very large team, and they're all working in niche programs, and we're doing a lot. So we're happy to address your concerns, file your complaints on OpenGov, or call our office. So what I am here to talk about tonight is the Climate Adaptation Plan, which is part of the Lake County 2050 project. Hopefully that's not the first time you're hearing that Lake County 2050. We've been out in the community now for about 1.5 years talking about this large-scale plan that we're working on. Lake County 2050 is a combination of the general plan update, all 8 local area plans, and this plan, the Climate Adaptation Plan. And although the HAPE was not a part of Lake County 2050, it's kind of adjacent to it, and we are making a very concerted effort to tie all of the threads of these plans together. And so thus Lisa's feedback that we have been asked to update the HAPE already to include some of the climate stuff, that's directly out of the community saying, why isn't this thread through the HAPE? So we're listening. And that's what I'm here to do tonight, is to get your input. So while your questions are fabulous, I'm the one here to ask you questions tonight. So I just want to make that clear. I'll be asking the questions and you'll be giving the answers. So the Climate Adaptation Plan is an optional plan. It's not yet required by the state, although that's probably coming. But it's an optional plan. We got funded through a grant through the governor's office on resiliency, and we're working with a couple of partners, the Risk Reduction Authority and the RCD, Resource Conservation District, on some projects related to climate. And one of those projects was this plan. And the first part of the plan was to, like the HAPE, look at the current conditions. And so a climate vulnerability analysis was conducted to look at, I believe the number is 81 or 91 different hazards that could impact a community, and to determine which of those hazards were most likely to occur in Lake County and what the impacts would be to both vulnerable populations and to community assets, both facilities and programs that get impacted when we have a climate disaster, and how we can prepare and be more resilient when those events happen. So that vulnerability analysis is on the Lake County 2050 website. There was a survey that was up specific to that analysis to kind of truth check with the community whether or not they thought that analysis made sense. That survey has closed, but we have always have the ability for you to leave a comment on that website related to any of the parts of the project. So if you want to read through that vulnerability analysis and give us any feedback, we'd be happy to take your input on that. Once the analysis is done, then again, like the HAPE, we're starting to develop these goals, strategies, and actions as to look at what ways can we help the community both prepare for and recover when hazards occur. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight. We have this plan developed and at an administrative draft review level. It's gone to county department heads. We're all kind of putting in our 2 cents, but this is the point now where we want to include some of your ideas. So I have 3 questions to pose to the group tonight, and all of your feedback will be taken in, and hopefully you'll see it reflected in what will be very soon to be released public draft of this plan, which will of course come back to the community and to the governing boards for their adoption. This plan is also regional like the HAPE and has included the cities of Lakeport and Clear Lake in its development and is designed to be an overall look at county. As we know, hazards don't stop at jurisdictional lines. So we really need, especially on climate issues, we really need to work together to address these things. So without further ado, I'm going to ask the first question. Just raise your hand. Lisa's going to be taking some notes for me so we make sure we get all of your ideas included into the public draft, which I believe we should have out in late November, early December. So this is kind of a current conditions question. What programs, resources, or services have been most successful in helping your community to prepare for, respond to, and recover from climate-related hazards such as wildfires, floods, extreme heat, and drought? So this question is, what is working already? Kate.
I would have to thank CAL FIRE for funding many grants for forest health and fuel mitigation. And so I'm hoping that, that they will continue to receive state funds and distribute it through Lake County. I know that there's still some issues with implementation in large part because there aren't crews to actually provide the work. So that would be something I think that the county, if the county, I know I'm with the RCD, so we just did a strategic plan thing on Tuesday. It came up. We're not really we don't have the capacity to hire our own, to develop our own crew of 4 or 5 or 6 crew members that would actually do the fire mitigation, fuel mitigation type of work. But if the county could provide some sort of support or incentives for encouraging people through training, maybe by offering training and some other incentives that would make it financially viable for somebody to start a crew like the Hogback Ridge crew. Of course, we have Terra, which is separate in its own way. It's a cultural burn out organization. So, but we only have one official one, which is Hogback, and that is based out of Upper Lake. And so it would be nice if there was a South County one.
Okay, so I heard that what is working is grants, forest health grants, and some fuel reduction work that's happening on the North Shore, but we could put the rest of your response into maybe question 3 about what could the county do is help develop more of these fuel reduction crews. Got it. Who else? What's working? Yes.
The Watch Duty app.
Thumbs up on Watch Duty, yes. It's become a critical tool, I think, to most of us. Thank you for that. Back here in the corner.
One of the things that I appreciated was there's a homeless situation going on at the St. Helena Bridge, and last year I got it cleaned up by requesting help, and they used a one-time grant, and then this year I let them know they made a huge mess there again, and they just cleaned it up again before it goes in the waterway, because a lot of people have water rights, and so I think that that is so important.
Thank you. Other things, what's working in terms of preparedness, recovery programs?
This isn't my first time, but one thing I didn't mention in the other events is the raised awareness of a defensible space. I know, for example, when I first came here, a defensible space we thought was like 5-6 feet.
Right.
That nobody believes that anymore. And everyone understands what it is, and there's a sort of a cultural thing now that, your space isn't defensible, go fix it, instead of ignoring it. So it's ingrained in our culture now, I think, as a community.
Yeah, like a community norm now.
Yeah, it's a community norm, and you get you know, some social pressure if you're not meeting that goal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. In the back.
Lisa Kaplan.
Hi, Lisa.
So I think, when I think about what is, I'm kind of like, 1 and 2 are kind of connected, because it's what programs, resources, services have been most successful, but also what are the challenges. So Tara's doing great work, but they're not available to everybody. And
But we'll put Tara on the list because they definitely have become a community gem.
No, they're awesome.
Yeah, so we'll put them on
But
the
all I'm
list.
saying is that, like, for the regular citizen who really doesn't know who Tara is,
Right.
it's like, I think that there's a way to combine youth education and employment opportunities with cleanup efforts, so that they almost are going house to house and doing work. So we need like a giant grant for that is based on career development. But like the kids don't even need to say they're going to become professionals. All they need to say is that they're dedicated to cleaning up where they grew up, something like that, and then begin to take care door to door, because, you know, you need resources, you need money to take care of your home properly.
Yes, you do.
And so if we can combine it with career development that's paid for by, the Department of Labor or something like that, then we can actually start to give to all the people in a more equitable way and get our spaces cleaned up.
Okay, so I think that second part is a 2 or a 3. What can we do basically is more workforce development around fuel reduction crews and grants for that work, and youth development programs. Okay.
There is money available for that.
Thank you. So we're still on what's working, and then we're going to switch to what we can do. But if you have another what's working, that would be great.
It's not what's working.
Okay. Does anybody else have a what's working? And we could stay on question 1, and then I'm going to go to question 2 in just a sec, I promise.
Basically, the fire departments is what we're.
So we were a part, we live in Hidden Valley Lake. We were part of the 2015 Valley Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Cal Fire learned a tremendous amount following all of the wildfires. There was a fire across from our house in a vacant field, and what was working is Cal Fire threw all of its resources, helicopters, engines, everything at that grass fire, and put it out. So kudos to Cal Fire for doing that.
Yeah, Cal Fire is working. Thank you, Cal Fire. Somebody in the room? For sure. Yeah.
Laurel Hogan, when it comes to extreme heat,
Yeah.
what's working is that the Hardister supermarket allows people to basically stay in there to stay cool. And the Methodist Church opened its doors, and I think it's and the library and the senior center. And I think it's the general good vibe of the small town warmth that allows that. And so that is really working. And there was one other thing. Oh, and also Cal Fire is doing a great job of being present at our meetings and keeping us updated and helping us prevent fires and know what services they have available.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's move on to question 2. What challenges are preventing residents and community organizations from implementing climate adaptation measures like defensible space, home hardening, water conservation, and emergency preparedness? And then if you want to add what solutions might help with that.
What I find that is not working right now, and I don't know what the answer to it is, like many here, we lost our home in the Valley Fire, and there are many, many lots in Middletown that are overgrown, and when I've called to ask what can be done, I'm told nothing. So some kind of something that you can call and say, would you please address this, because it's real. The other thing is the waterways, the fire here anyway, followed the waterways. And we have so much fuel in our waterways right now. Scotch broom is going crazy and it's very oily. And there's willows, and so that's a concern. And I don't know what the answer is to address it, but it does need to be addressed.
Thank you. Those are good ones.
I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I think for Lake County in general, and we did a big fight here, some of the members of the MAP went up and fought for it. We've created a monster with some of these grows in the scenic area, because basically scenic Lake County is from the Napa County line to Middletown. And that gives people the impression, and it really has a lot to do with commerce and everything else, but we've awarded so many marijuana grows in that corridor. That's a big part of it. And the other part of it too is, like what she said, there's so much growing in the creek because more water is being taken from this marijuana than the creek can support. The residents all have riparian rights that go back to 1860. We're very unique because we were part of the Spanish water grants. But at the same time, there is no water in the wells. There's no water in the land. The only water you have is in the creeks. And some of the paperwork that they submit with lawyers and everything says that they get 330 gallons a minute. Sure they do. In the middle of February when it's raining like hell. Okay? But we need that water between the months of May and September when the rains start up again. And we can't live without it. So there has to be an enforcement that can go there. The neighbors themselves, I mean, I was surprised when I first came into this situation. The people living there, I mean, these are tough guys. They don't want to go to the courthouse. They don't want to complain because they're scared. They're scared because they're dealing with basically mafias, you know, who've already spent like $2 million to do a drug grow that's quasi-legal because the county gave them the opportunity to grow it in a place where there is no water. So if we can do those things and get those rules enforced, and I don't know how closely you work with the state water board, but even the state fish and game guys with this particular one that we fought against, they were afraid to go out on that grow site and stop it. We won as far as the county goes, but still, code enforcement, we have not heard anybody. They had somewhere between 19 and 24 containers on that property. We to this day don't know if they're growing inside those containers or not. So you have a big job to do right here on this corridor to make sure that we can actually get that out. I really don't care what happens, you know, on the other side of the Weatherwack Bridge, but it really makes us look bad. The whole county look bad.
Thank you.
I have a comment along those lines, and actually in regard to what Lisa was saying, who's left the room now. But a while back with the Workforce Alliance, so I guess my comment is basically is that partnering with other organizations. But a while back with the Workforce Alliance, we did put together a program, or the Workforce Alliance put together a program working with youth to do, just as Lisa was talking about, to kind of act like Tara in going out and doing some cleanup. That program never left because the Workforce Alliance is an alliance of several different counties. The program was run in Napa and unfortunately didn't make it here to Lake County. But that's something, you know, possibly partnering with the Workforce Alliance or an organization like that to engage youth to do some of the work. So,
Thank you.
And be proud of what they do.
Yeah.
I have a question. Does the CCC still exist?
The CCC still exists, but as far as I know, we have no branch or service in Lake County.
Okay, I was just curious because you used to see them a lot, and that would be
Yeah.
a great youth program. Yeah, it's a great youth program, and is it not working?
California.
Oh, the
California Conservation Corps.
They do maintenance on public lands, and
Yeah.
they'll even do private, if I understand correctly. And it's a youth program, and it's a really great program to get people not only into the service field. You can expand to CAL FIRE, you can expand to law enforcement, you can expand to military, and just job development. So I'm just curious of why we don't see that and why California doesn't expand on that. So that's one. My second part is as for fuel. Scotch broom's an invasive plant, and I suggest you eliminate it. And second, I don't know if everybody knows, you can fact check me on this, but a willow tree takes 150 gallons a day. So when you count the willow trees in your creeks, when you cut one out, that's 150 gallons that's going to go downriver. So if you do the math, there's a lot of water that's being wasted right there. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, I'll get up there in just a sec.
Just to add to what they're saying, the Scotch broom is also detrimental down here because it's creating mass that allows the creek to flood during the flooding. And the problem is also, has been stated in other areas, we're having difficulty getting who to communicate. I was surprised and delighted that she was able to get someone to clean it before, but when we had massive debris, I was kind of getting the runaround, and we get blocks from Fish and Game because they're protecting a certain fish. And it is really critical. And then the other small thing is that although we did have successful people opening up for extreme heat, there are certain days of the week when both the senior center and the library is closed. And so if we could work with officials to for those building hours. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of them is, I think we have a lot of exciting programs going on in the county, but I don't think the outreach is where it needs to be. We talk about resiliency centers. I know a lot of people aren't even aware they exist. And so I think there needs to be a real concerted effort, not a grassroots effort, but a real programmatic effort to get things like that out. Same thing with things like Firewise communities and resiliency. We talked about defensible space. Huge marketing program by the state and others to understand what that is. There are these programs that were discussed here, but they're all kind of, fragmented. The other one is, and I think you've heard me talk about this before, is our roads. We have a fairly low standard in the state of 4290, the minimum fire safety requirements. That's not even normal safety requirements. It's just the minimum. And it's important that, we talked to the HAPE recently about the concern about making sure the infrastructure is suitable. But it seems that it's hit and miss when it comes to that. There was a hearing today where that came up, and it becomes a problem. We live on a one-way in, one-way out road that has several 4290 issues on it. And every summer, my thought is this going to be the day when I'm trapped? Because I know my road's not going to get me out. It's just the day that we have to fight for our lives. For those of us that had to live through a fire, truly have to live through that, have to evacuate, or weren't able to evacuate, or had to live with the terror of being stuck on a road, trying to get out. Those are serious things that, and I'll be very honest, I don't think the county really, follows what they don't walk the talk on that. It's a walk of convenience, and it's very frustrating when you try to communicate, this is not safe, guys. And then they say, well, we'll figure it out some other time. We have to stop the madness. Thank you.
Thank you.
In talking about roads, also dirt roads, if you look at aerial maps of Lake County, so we have so many dirt roads, yet we have a Blue Ribbon Committee that is working like crazy for a number of years to try to do things to better our lake, the gem in our county, and it's been known that dirt roads are a huge problem with our lake, yet we keep allowing more and more dirt roads.
One thing that worked was we had the first time ever trash treasure event where the community's invited to clean up areas, and we were blessed with a giant dumpster. And if if the county could just give us a dumpster a month, it would solve a lot of problems. We wouldn't even have to organize anything. People just at their convenience, keep the lots clean and fire safe.
Who provided that? Can I ask? Because I didn't hear about that one. I'm here. We've done a lot of community
That's-
cleanup events, but I hadn't heard about that one. Okay.
That's part of the Caltrans, correct? That's part of Caltrans coastal cleanup? No?
Water resources put on the
Oh,
coastal
right.
cleanup.
Right.
Water resources.
Did anybody know we had a dumpster in town?
Not till after the
Yeah,
fact.
so this is a new program.
I have a couple of things. One is on defensible space, is that when the neighbors refuse to cut their weeds, and I see goes on a lot in this county. Where I used to live, the city would give you a deadline, and then if you didn't do it, then here they came, they mowed, and then they sent you the bill. I doubt, I know the county has resource problems, but allowing people to get away with not cutting their high weeds is really a fire problem. And so I see that as an issue. And the other thing I noticed about Lake County is in the winter, there is so much water that pours out of the sky that if we would do more for rain barrel collection, like in Hawaii, they collect rainwater in these great big, containers, and particularly when it comes to fire season, having access to those type of resources for a fire would be useful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I forgot to say my name. I'm Linda Deal Darms. But what I wanted to say was not only does the growth in the creek cause issues for fire, but also for flooding, because it holds back the gravel, it holds back debris that gets piled up, and we're going to have a huge flood here one day because it's getting higher and higher and higher, the gravel.
Yeah, it's kind of a similar question, but feel free to keep your ideas flowing. But if you want to, just what specific actions could the County of Lake or the Risk Reduction Authority take to support resilience and adaptation efforts? So this has been kind of a mixed bag of like what partners can do, what the county can do, but keep them coming. Margot?
Thank you. This ties in a lot of the threads that were uncovered tonight. You had mentioned several plans that are related to the general plan, and right now it just looks like they're disjointed. An improvement would be to somehow tie it together, like in Lord of the Rings, one to rule them all. So if the general plan were the master plan, as it were, and it points out to these other plans and these other organizations that do good work that keep the community safe, such as what Firewise Communities versus Fire Safe Council, and the Office of Emergency Services multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan versus a Lake Area Planning Council's Lake County Wildfire Evacuation Plan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have the HAPE, and then you have everything else. So if we had, like the general plan be the North Star to point out what these other plans are and who these groups are and what their scopes are, I think that'd be a great service to the community. The climate adaptation plan prompts proactive water security measures. And South County is no stranger to wells going dry. And as Charlie pointed out, that's a big concern. And already in Lake County, Big Valley Groundwater Basin is subject to state monitoring. And Lake County's Board of Supervisors Vice Chair Rasmussen commented yesterday that if the county doesn't manage the groundwater well, the state's going to step in. So it is in Lake County's best interest to manage its resources well, especially groundwater. And the following suggestions may get us to groundwater security and sustainability. One is to promote smart and sustainable use of water for ag and development. Two, promote conservation, drought management, preparation for drought, and use of technology to conserve water. And three, to review discretionary use permit applications for smart and sustainable use of water. That could involve revising county ordinances and regulations to make permittees accountable for water usage estimates. And aligning with these suggestions is the Planning Commissioner's interest in reviewing annual reports for permitted projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
And welcome Supervisor Helen Owen.
Welcome, Helen.
I understand you had a previous engagement. Thank you for joining us.
Hi.
Anyone else have a comment? Are we
Okay.
going to release our speakers this evening? All right. Give them
Thank you
a
so
big
much for
round of
having
applause.
us. We appreciate your input.
Thank you, Shannon and Lisa. Okay, next on the agenda, we did already approve the meeting minutes. So we're on
good
to
call.
correspondence. Okay, in correspondence, one item is when you entered the room or when you're exiting the room, there are a couple of maps there on the little easel. Those are the latest plans from Caltrans in regard to the downtown area, where 2 blocks of the downtown area would have diagonal parking. So if you want to take a look at that, this is something we had a discussion on earlier, that Mr. Thornton would like us to put this on a future agenda
Yes.
and talk about this in a little bit more in depth.
It's 8:35.
Yes.
And this will take some time, and it should be a free, open debate, so I would suggest that we
Are you making a motion?
make a motion to put it on the next agenda and set a time limit before open debate.
Okay.
Is it possible to email the display that you have back there to the
Yes.
assembly?
Yes.
Then that would be a good.
Yes.
That's not going to be easy. There's a lot of questions. Let me ask you another question. On the design, there are things that I want to ask, and if Caltrans is not here, how are we going to get an answer?
Well, I think we can actually just do that by consensus. If everybody wants to put this on the November agenda, just a head nod. If you don't, go like this and we'll see. And then, okay, so everybody's fine? Good. All right, it's on the agenda for November. And you would like to add?
No, my question is, for instance, are the trees going to be there? Absolutely guaranteed? Is the sidewalk going to be as wide as it is now? Is it going to be narrow? Who's going to answer those questions? Are you going to answer those questions? That's all I want to know. If we're going to have a meeting and we're going to ask questions, we need answers.
Great. We'll see if we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody.
So, Linda, that's what I was going to say. I thought I saw another hand.
I just would like, if possible, whatever the correspondence is that Math received from Caltrans regarding this, that it go out to the membership so we all have a chance to review it prior to the meeting.
Yes. So I think that's what Barbara just mentioned also, is she would like us to send those pictures.
I'm just curious, how come we're not getting correspondence from the Math website and we're getting them from the secretary's personal website? Or because there are people who are not getting their agendas.
That's
Do you want me to
That's been a problem.
address that?
Yeah, sure.
So, this has been a problem since Lisa, I believe Ken mentioned that he had had problems as well. This has been an ongoing problem with that Gmail account. People are not receiving it. So our theory is that maybe it's going to people's spams. Maybe it's been, highlighted in certain people's emails, although it doesn't seem to be consistent either. Like some months, some people get it, some months they don't. So my current experiment is to use not the Gmail account and send out the correspondence with my email that more people seem to be receiving from that email. I'm getting better feedback.
And then she puts in the subject, math.
Right, and then I put in the subject math, and I try to remember to change my signature, my email signature, every time. I might slip every once in a while, I don't know, but I try to remember to change that. And it's been getting to more people, but I do still get, 1 or 2 emails a month saying, hey, didn't receive it this month, and then I'll just resend it.
We can't figure out how to fix it because we don't have an IT person on staff. But we do have a supervisor here in the room. We got a problem. Can you help us? Hi, Thomas.
So like she mentioned, go into your spam folders, click on the email and allow all mail from this sender. And so once you do that, it's a little chore. You have to go through your spam. Once you do that, you will receive all the emails. I do now.
That's
For all of
good
my
to hear.
accounts, but I had to do that for 2 of the accounts, just so you know.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next item because this is a long meeting this evening. So the next item is the Middletown Area Plan, and as I mentioned earlier, we have the, if somebody has a question.
James, do you want to be the question hander outer?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So, okay, I'll sit here. So just to put it out there, that at this point in time is if you own a parcel or a piece of property and you have an interest in possibly having your zoning changed, it's a good time to consider that or request that while we are doing the Middletown Area Plan update. So I just wanted to make that announcement. We will be, the Middletown Area Plan Committee, also known as the LAPAC, will be meeting as the Middletown Area Plan will be coming up for review again after the new year. So we do want to kind of start talking about this and get our ducks in a row and, before that draft comes back to us, we want to have some suggestions, some ideas. So just want to open up your thoughts on that, and hopefully we can have a discussion on that in the next month or 2.
Where are they sent to? If someone has a request, who do they send it to? How do they do that?
Well, for now, you could send it to math. So thanks for the question. Okay. And then for correspondence received, we did receive a request for review for the East Side Farms, which is a cannabis project located where? Jerusalem? No. Jerusalem Valley. It's an existing project, and they want to do an expansion. So if anybody has any questions on that or would like to receive the information, again, at this point, it's a request for review. So if anybody would like to receive any information on that, again, notify Tara.
There was a moratorium on does that?
No. No, there is no moratorium. Your supervisor did try to push forward with a moratorium or something similar to that, and if she wants to speak to that, she can. But
I tried, I pushed, I failed.
So, but along those lines, well, I'm going to, I might as well jump down to that. So, so one of the things that is happening in regard to cannabis, the cannabis ordinance is being moved forward, the revision of the cannabis ordinance. So if you have any comments on that or want to stay engaged, that is going to be in action. There are several meetings. The Planning Commission today, there was a presentation done about the elements that they will try to, I guess they're probably at this point in time or whatever, trying to do a revision to the best of their ability on some of the key issues. There are a couple of issues that involve water and odor that may need to or may require an EIR. If they go the EIR route on those issues, that could be a year out before those revisions become part of the ordinance. In the meantime, they are trying to go ahead and move forward on some of the other issues that have been recognized through the Cannabis Task Force with the whole cannabis ordinance, and trying to make those revisions now before the end of the year. So that will be going before the Board of Supervisors on November 4th. Discussion there. Immediately following that on November 13th, it will be back at the Planning Commission. And so anyway, so that's the update on that. And if you'd like to engage in that, please do so. Other topics that the Board of Supervisors are dealing with currently are Sonoma Clean Power. You know, we had a presentation here. There is a decision to be made by October 21st. Is that correct?
It'll be coming back before us. We'll be addressing it again on the 21st. So I don't know if it's going to be a solid decision. I know right now I'm trying to do my research.
Mm-hmm. So with Sonoma Clean Power, again, we have a presentation here. I know from my, from attending the presentation that we had here at the math meeting, that still left me with a lot of questions. I would encourage you to watch the video clip if you are so able to go on to the county website and look up the September 30th Board of Supervisors meeting, which was a joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors and both cities. And again, there was a very good presentation by Sonoma Clean Power, and also a good number of questions and answers and topics brought up by the various different city council members and, of course, our Board of Supervisors. So to get a little more in-depth knowledge, I encourage you to watch that video clip.
Monica, may I just real quick?
Yes.
Just an update. It should probably be known that one of the municipalities, Clear Lake, voted against Sonoma Clean Power. Thank you.
No, that's kind of changed, so it looks like the door's still open. Originally, when they came before us, it looked like it was going to be more on the lines of the power, supplying the power here. And then as it started moving forward, the geo zone got reattached back to it. So the big thing for me is looking at the geo zone and making sure that we'll somehow benefit from that. I'm for power, obviously, but at the same time, I just want to make sure that we have our needs taken care of as well. The power here is, as far as them supplying power, it's kind of a wash in my mind, because you may go a 3% under or even 3% over on your bill. So it's not a big enough savings, and certainly not a guaranteed savings for me to want to take the risk of signing on for the 20 years. And it's 20 years beyond the time that if we decide we want out, it takes 20 years to get out. That's a long time. So that is pretty much a wash for me. But the geo zone, if that has some benefits for us, that is where I'm going to be focusing more of my research. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so then another issue that is coming before the Board of Supervisors and before the Planning Commission are ag roads. So, and exactly what to do about that whole situation. So ag roads or dirt roads?
Okay, we asked at the last meeting, I had asked that we take it to the, we have the Agriculture Advisory Council. It's a meeting, so we've got, the Lake County Agriculture, we have, the Farm Bureau. There's also a number of different, ag people in there, including cannabis is gonna be represented in that. So we're gonna bring it before that to, have them address it. And that was actually also a suggestion from Mr. Wink, because I'd called the fire departments to get I spoke to 3 different fire chiefs and got their input, and Mike had came up with bringing it before the ag commissioners. And so that's the direction we're gonna go, or ag committee.
The reason for this is because the original recommendation was to create an ad hoc committee
Yes.
to review ag roads. And there is already in place a ag committee, so that incorporates various different people from ag, including cannabis. And so the decision was made to have the existing ag committee take a look at it, because they will be meeting on October 27th.
Yes, and I've also asked that we also have somebody from the fire, a fire chief or fire personnel, added to that for this particular issue.
Mhm.
And basically.
That's for 4290, 4291 compliance.
Yes, and exactly what that would entail as far as how much traffic and, at what point do they not have to have it? So, yeah.
Right. Okay, so that's something else to watch.
Just real quick, this is more of a commentary. I find it really ironic that we talked just a few minutes ago about the importance of having fire-safe roads and things like that. This came up because the cannabis industry wants to use a definition for ag roads to avoid being compliant. You know, we're trying to make our roads safer, and we got this one group that they don't want to play that game. They want to try to get around the obligation, responsibility on all these dirt roads that we talked about, and making them safer. And I find it very disheartening and frustrating that we would even entertain such an idea. And I don't even think it's going to be, survive a legal challenge. But anyways, that's my comment.
So, and then I'll add one further comment to that, in, not defense, but with cannabis, we did decide to, as a county or with the current cannabis ordinance, to push cannabis grows to the outskirts because of those aspects of cannabis, like the odor, that are not compatible with communities. So as we push them out into our more rural areas, there are no roads. So that's part of the issue that needs to be addressed as well.
Madam Chair, when you talk about...
Mike?
When you
Thanks.
talk about ag roads, are we only talking about cannabis roads? Or are we talking about all roads, vineyards and everything? And what are we talking about, paving them to county standards or gravel or?
Correct. So yes, it kind of, the whole conversation stems from, became very problematic because of cannabis, and because of, as I said, pushing cannabis into rural areas where there are no roads. But it also, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, just to kind of put a finer point on it. So there's a clause in 4290 that has an exemption that says that if a road is used solely for agriculture, mining, timber, or forestry, it could be exempt from 4290. The issue is that it doesn't really matter what your label the road is. You can label it or categorize it as agriculture. But the way the law is currently set up, it has to be used solely for agriculture. So if you have residences on it or other businesses on it or something else that's not agriculture, then it's not used solely for agriculture.
Or if you take agriculture as far as the commercial aspects of agriculture into, such as a winery building or a
Exactly.
cannabis,
Yeah.
facility, a structure.
Exactly.
Then it becomes commercial, not ag.
Right, so the other twist on this is that cannabis currently under state law is not agriculture, it's under the commercial code. And this is, 4290 obviously is a state regulation, as is the cannabis. And so I think it's kind of a futile effort legally to say, well, the county's going to declare it agriculture, and that will make it all okay, because it's really, we can declare it whatever we want. And I don't have anything against the county saying we want cannabis to be like agriculture, but it's not our definition that counts. It's the state's. And if it's not used solely for agriculture, it doesn't really matter. And when you look at all the roads, like Jerusalem Grade, which has a lot of cannabis on it, it's also not 4290 compliant because it's a dead-end road. But there's also a lot of houses on that. And there's a lot of people that live there. So it would not qualify for an agricultural exemption, even if you labeled it an agricultural road. So it's this kind of nuance that we got to get into the devil of details. Thank you.
I thought
Thank you.
cannabis was ruled a agricultural product.
By the county,
By the county.
right,
Yes, it was.
correct.
Okay, correct, okay. But it is
But
in
not
this
by the
county,
state. But
it's an
the
ag product.
4290, 4291 is state.
What we call it doesn't matter. It's what the state calls it.
Yeah, state and federal government don't recognize it.
We could call it, manna from heaven. And it doesn't-
Okay, so we need to move on. So if we want to add this to an agenda item, we can do that. So the next things under correspondence are 2 surveys. One is the Lake Area Planning Council would like us to visit the website to take a community survey on zero-emission vehicle infrastructure plan. So somebody will be here next month also, just to speak briefly, 10 to 15 minutes about this. But we'll be sending this out also to the membership. And we'll be sending these things that we need to follow up and send. Tara, is it okay if we do a separate email and so we can get all this materials out to people? So anyway, there's that survey, and then we would also like to create a survey. Our supervisor would like some more input from the community in regard to the proposed Sutter Park here in town. So we'd like to create a survey and send that out to the membership so that we can get some more input. Is that correct?
Yeah, what I was thinking was if we could do a flyer, if you guys could put together a flyer on it that I can post and people can post, and we could, kind of gather not just from within this body, but let other people kind of have some input on it if that's possible. Would you be able to do a flyer on that?
What if I created a flyer with a QR code that people could scan so
That
if-
would be
and maybe
amazing.
a link as well, just for the ease of emailing out, but that would bring them, I'm thinking like a Google survey, where they can just maybe
Ideas
answer
for the
some
park.
drop-down questions and then fill in whatever else they
Because
want.
that was the whole point when I brought Lars here to that, was so that we could get some input from the public.
And we gave lots of input, so what we need to do is take a look at that input and do a summary of that and
idea.
include that in the survey. So I don't
That's
know
a
if
great
Lars
idea.
has that.
Who's making the survey?
Well, if you were listening,
I was listening.
Tara,
Okay.
she just said,
Okay, Tara,
Yeah.
well, she said she would do a thing, but you said nothing about who was making the survey. So I just want to know how many options are going to be on the survey is all. And it doesn't, if it's just what Tara and Monica
it's going to be
wants-
questions.
Okay, good.
No, it's going
Then
to be
it'll also
questions.
have an open area where you can type in whatever your input is.
All right, sounds good.
Do you want to put in a quote, Charlie, and say what Charlie wants?
No,
We
no,
can
I-
include that on the flyer.
No, we did.
Charlie
a whole
would
meeting
like-
about it, and there was several options, and I
And
just want to make
that's-
sure every option gets on there.
And that's what I just said, is that we need to get that information from Lars. So from the meeting when Lars was here. will get that information from Lars so that we can do a summary of that and put that out,
Okay.
as a starting discussion.
All right, sounds good. We're still over here.
Okay, so that's it? That's it for correspondence, unless our secretary has something else?
No, I mean, just what we're gonna be putting on the next month, or the
Okay.
future agenda.
Well, no, we have number 6 item on our agenda. Nominations are open for the math board seats as of this month. And those seats are Nanette's
No.
Bill?
and Bill, yes.
Yeah.
And you also?
I'm up to because,
Yes, because she
took
replaced
over.
Lisa,
Yeah.
Right.
so the term expires
So
at
there's
the end.
three seats.
3 seats. So
I-
we would accept nominations if anybody would like to
I would
nominate
like
somebody?
to, I would like to nominate Tara Ibarra for the board. Nomination for the board.
Would you accept?
Yeah, I'll accept. Peer pressure.
I'd like to nominate Nanette.
Donato, and I accept.
Okay, so that's
And-
2 nominations.
I would also like to nominate Bill, but he's not here to accept, so I don't know if if he'll be here next meeting or, well, as long as it's before January, correct? Yeah, I know. Well, he's under the impression that he can't run again. He thought he could only run for one term.
By December.
Right,
because
right.
Election.
So I could put it out there, he can accept it later, right?
Well, if we're gonna do that, why don't we just do Linda and
Okay, anybody else? We can check with Bill offline and,
We can always nominate him in December too, or November.
Question, Chair, when did the nominations close?
December.
December, thank you.
Nominations are open for 3 months, October, November, December, with the election happening in January, the January meeting. Okay. So I think that takes care of that for this evening. So now we're down to public input. I'm sorry. Yes, Nanette.
I have 3 things. First, I'd like to do a shout out to Helen. About 6 months ago, she asked for pictures of our roads, and I submitted Mirabelle Road in pictures. I'm not sure if you're responsible, but we woke up Monday morning, and they were out there with the gravel, filling the potholes, and they're working all week. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Second,
That's our road crew, and the problem at that area has been solved, and we have an amazing crew.
they're doing a good
So
job.
that's our roads department, and I need to
Cool.
give kudos to them because they're wonderful.
And then second of all, yeah. Hey, I submitted the pictures. There is a fundraiser for the senior center. It's our annual, and it looks like 13th annual. It's a dinner with a silent auction, and the menu will be carnitas and all the trimmings. It's November 15th, which is a Saturday at 5 p.m. The cost is $30 each, and you can get the tickets at the senior center in the office. And yeah, it's there's cocktails, there's hors d'oeuvres, it's fun. It's usually full. And then also I wanted to remind everybody that Saturday, October 11th is the Harvest Festival in Lakeport, Main Street. Starts at 11, ends at 6. So there's a dog race, and my dog won last year, second place. Second fastest dog in Lakeport, Lake County. For which? The fundraiser, November 15th. That's a dinner, and it's a great silent auction. There'll be jam donations.
Okay, any other public input? Margot?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My public comment is timely. On Tuesday, October 21st, Lake County Board of Supervisors will vote whether to accept Sonoma Clean Power's SCP offer. The offer has two parts. First, consumer choice, the choice of green energy. Second, land use question about the development of Lake County geothermal resources. Accepting SCP's offer doesn't eliminate PG&E from your electric bill. PG&E's infrastructure, wires and distribution, will be used by SCP. SCP can't guarantee that your electricity bill will be lower by leaving PG&E energy generation. There are many unanswered questions about the geozones. And SCP's plans for developing Lake County's geothermal resources. There are other fish in the geothermal development sea. SCP isn't changing the energy model for Lake County. To SCP, Lake County is an energy consumer, not a partner. Lake County should seek partners and be its own geothermal resource broker. Managing Lake County's geothermal resources well could lift Lake County from its limited economic circumstances. To do so, Lake County should not rush into an agreement that binds it for decades, possibly to tech that will go obsolete before the end of the agreement. Lake County would be wise to take charge of the development of its geothermal resources and setting financial terms, not just agreeing to locations of geothermal infrastructure and granting permits for that infrastructure. Lake County, don't marry the first good-looking date who asks you to the dance. Shop around. Don't be rushed into a poor deal. You deserve better. You can do better. You're beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I would just
Yes,
like,
Charlie.
I'd just like to piggyback and say, it's not going to create any real jobs for us, and it's not, I can't say it's even going to help us as far as Calpine goes. Years ago, I did a tour of Calpine, and they were on the tour bus, and all they did was just badmouth Calpine and how much better they would be while while living off of Calpine's dime and driving all over the hills. I think their attitude in the presentation has been a little more refined than it was probably about 5 years ago, but it's something to think about. They see Calpine as a competitor. They don't see them as a partner. So, yeah.
I'd like to piggyback on that too. That what I heard them say is that if it goes through and the county approves it, it will automatically show up on everybody's PG&E bill, and it's up to the individual to opt out. It will be automatic. So, and that's kind of concerning because a lot of people just see a total and pay it. They don't realize that there's another company involved, and I don't like that part.
Okay, we're not going to do any more piggybacking. So if we need to set a special meeting to discuss Sonoma Power, we should do that. So any other public comment that's not piggybacking?
There's a trunk or treat put on by Mama on October 24th. It'll be over at the car wash again.
What is it?
The trunk or treat, they
Trunk
do
or
it.
treat.
Yeah, they do it for
Halloween.
the kids. Halloween.
For the youth.
Just trunk
Trunk
or treat.
and treat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trunk or treat.
So what does that mean? Do you just drive your car there? And
You can sign up if you would like to. I think they're still taking sign-ups, but yeah, people go and just kind of decorate their trunks and give out candy. It's an opportunity for kids to come and, wear their costume again.
All right. Yeah. Any other public comments? Not a question. This is not Q&A time.
Well, okay, my
But
comment is that I'd like
you
to
can ask a rhetorical question.
I'll state that I would like more information and discussion on the topic of the Sonoma Energy So instead of piggybacking my viewpoint, I saw from the ambience here that maybe people don't want a meeting. So Helen, where else can I get together with people and hear more input on this topic?
One of the things I think I'd recommend is, what was the date of the meeting we had? It was just like a week, it was the.
September 30th.
September 30th.
As I said, September 30th.
If you
There's a
want to
video
go
clip online.
Yes, it's the Board of Supervisors. And so you can watch it on there, and then if you have further questions, go ahead and give me a call.
And our meeting also.
Okay,
they
thank
came.
you. We're going to move on to future agenda items. Any other future agenda items? Yes, Mr. Thornton. Oh, okay. Wait. I'm sorry. Linda's got the mic.
I have asked a couple of times that we put on the agenda to have a meeting, or have it on the agenda regarding naming the park that's out here. That when we started that and did that park, we were told that we as a community can pick the name of that park, and I think that that's something that still should be honored, and then the county will make a sign given what the majority of the people in the community would like to have the name be.
Okay, thank you. Did you get that? Yep.
I have a motion for the agenda. I make a motion that on November agenda, that we have a one item agenda, and that item would be Caltrans revisions for downtown Middletown, diagonal parking and other issues. I have questions about bike lanes and all that, and I would like for it to be single so we can take the time, especially if we can get a Caltrans person here. It'll take all that time, and I think there's nothing more important than our downtown. So I make a motion that be a single agenda item in the month of November.
Okay. So we already have one other item on the November agenda. So for about a 10-minute presentation. But I mentioned that earlier, the
Board didn't vote on that.
AB's, yeah, okay.
It wasn't brought before us.
Okay. Helen, you wanted to say something?
I was just going to tell, so you want to give me a call, like tomorrow afternoon or something? We can talk a little bit about what I know about it, which is a lot, some.
That's good, but we should,
I'm speaking with Izzy, with Caltrans, so I'm working with him right now.
well, I just think we ought to make sure we have enough time.
Yes.
Tonight was a fiasco. We didn't have the time. Look at the chairs up already, and we're still in the process. So my motion is that we have a single agenda item in November.
I would still like the park to be in there.
Yes.
Yeah, the park's important.
All right, I'll add the park. I'm easy.
Why don't you just go sit where Monica sits? I think she had the park on there already, Fletcher.
The other agenda item that we had was the Lake County Zero Emissions Vehicle Infrastructure Plan. They are already scheduled for November.
So, okay, can we adjourn the meeting?
I make a
I think
motion
we're all
that we
late.
adjourn.
It's no piggybacks.
I second, I third, I fourth. Fletcher.